We've created rules, regulations, and conditions that have men really prioritizing comfort and prioritizing a way of living that is not really inspiring. This can all go from the way that we work, from the way that we engage with our hobbies. Everything is focused on convenience and eliminating risk. But for me, one of the biggest things that actually awakens a man is risk-taking. It is the adventure. It is the initiatory moment. So I would say, if I was to sum it up into one sentence, the modern world has removed rites of passage and initiation from a man's life. So therefore, he's never, ever really prioritized expanding into more of who he truly is. A lot of guys say the longest journey you'll take is the 6 inches from your head to your heart. And I'm like, yeah, cool. That's an awesome journey. But there's another part of the journey. You got to go from the heart down to the cock. And that was the most terrifying journey for me. That was like coming down into the heart is like beautiful. But then coming down through the guts, through the grief, down into the raw masculine power that I have to plant the seed of life in my woman's womb, like that kind of power, that I have the power to plant seeds and to take and destroy, like all of that, man. Like, I think a lot of men are unaware of the actual full journey that they're on, which is to go all the way down.
My guest today is Jacob O'Neill. Jacob is a men's coach and the founder of The Gathering of Men. Tune in today as Jacob and I explore how modern society has failed men, the significance of rites of passage and initiation, and the magic of men's retreats. This episode of Unhooked is a must-listen for anyone interested in personal growth and masculine empowerment. So, stay tuned.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Lipkowitz, and with over 12 years of meditation experience as a mindfulness trainer and coach for high performers, I've become obsessed with helping people break free from compulsive, unhealthy behaviors and addictions and step into a life of true freedom so that they can finally become their best selves and cultivate deeper and lasting fulfillment. I've created Unhooked, the Breaking Porn Addiction podcast, to give you simple, actionable, step-by-step strategies to master your mind and optimize your life. This is Unhooked. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Unhooked. I am your host, Jeremy Lipkowitz. Very excited today for my guest, Jacob O'Neill. Jacob, welcome to the show.
Stoked to be here, bro.
So for the listeners who aren't familiar with you and your work, if you can just give people like a very high-level overview of who you are and what you do, that'd be great.
Of course, man. I'm a men's leadership coach, so I work only with men. And I work in a one-on-one capacity. I work in a group coaching capacity. But my favorite thing that I love doing is retreats and in-person experiences. So I'm the founder of The Gathering of Men, which is a large men's retreat here in Australia, in Southeast Queensland. We come together for 4 days on the land and go through a series of powerful experiences that challenge the men, that celebrate masculinity and cultivate masculine power, and provide a deeper connection to the earth, to each other, and to our own core self. So they're the pillars that I work with, bro. That's, if you ask me what I do, I challenge men, I celebrate men, and I connect them back to their own hearts, to the heart of Mother Nature, and to the hearts of other men. So they can be the fathers, they can be the husbands, so they can be the pillars in their community for responsible masculine leadership. And yeah, man, I've been doing that for the last sort of 4 years full time, and it's been an apprenticeship, bro. It's been a really powerful journey for me, and one that continually initiates me. I'm forever learning, forever growing myself.
That's beautiful. And I've been snooping around and checking it out, and it just looks so amazing. The Gathering of Men that you put together in terms of the facilitators you're bringing in, the topics you're covering. And as you say, the pillars of it, the way you challenge men, but you also provide a safe space for celebration and going deep. And it really looks wonderful. I'm curious to know, you've said before that modern society has failed men. And I'm curious to know what you mean by that.
For me, the way that I say that it's failed men is it has become so structured that it has removed any sense of wild uniqueness or individuality. And men have been given this linear structure to their life that you do this, then 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 you die. And if you don't do it in this order, and if you don't do it in this way, then you're not going to be seen as successful. You're not going to be acknowledged as a man. And the laws, the regulations, the rules that we have created, especially here in Australia, I don't know too much about in the rest of the world, but in Australia, we've created rules, regulations, and conditions that have men really prioritizing comfort and prioritizing a way of living that is not really inspiring.
Mm.
And that means this can all go from the way that we work, from the way that we engage with our hobbies. Everything is focused on convenience and risk, eliminating risk. But for me, one of the biggest things that actually awakens a man is risk taking. It is the adventure. It is the initiatory moment. So I would say, if I was to sum it up into one sentence, the modern world has removed rites of passage and initiation from a man's life. So therefore, he's never, ever really prioritized expanding into more of who he truly is.
Mm. What are some of the consequences of that? Like, how does that harm men?
I believe that men are non-committal in relationships. I believe that men stay in jobs that keep them in a comfortable position and keep them in a, this will do, this is good enough for me. There's no real striving for greatness. Or if there is, it is purely based in identity and I am my achievements. So for me, I would say that, the consequences is non-committal men, whether that's the fuck boy or the nice guy, the guy that can't commit but wants to take from every woman, the guy that can't commit because he can't claim a woman. We've got this kind of polarity that's playing out. Both both lead back to the same core wound. But I would say that, the non-committal man is the one that doesn't have the capacity for responsibility. Therefore, we're lacking a lot. We're lacking leadership amongst community, which is where I'm most passionate, is around creating leaders that lead their community, lead their partner, lead their family, and are able to look after their own backyard.
It's interesting. I never thought of it, but interesting when you say it, that the non-committal man is not only the fuckboy, but it's also the nice guy that doesn't know how to commit and be bold and take a stand.
He plays it safe. He plays it safe in his own way, but also the fuckboy does as well, because he never fully lets
his guard down, or
man. And those guys do my head in. I was a nice guy, so I've got compassion for the nice guy because I've been it. But the fuckboys, I'm still like, I like to really, really challenge those guys when we're in a retreat. I like to really,
you don't go easy on them. Yeah. I'm curious to know, just on that note, that I've met so many people in these healing spaces, and I feel that every single one of us that does work in this capacity has a story of their own hero's journey where they went through something. And I'm curious what it is that you went through that led you into this healing journey.
Yeah, man. Thank you for asking. I won't go deep into all of the stories, but I'll point out key moments that happened throughout my life. So the first one, I was 10. I smashed my face and knocked all my teeth out, cut my lip off, and I became really self-conscious around how I looked. And that was the first real kind of insecurity that I developed. I then got bullied in high school. I was the king of the school in primary school, and then I went to high school and got ripped, had my feet ripped out from underneath me, and spent the first 3 years of high school completely and utterly like in my victimhood. And very much bullies are bullies, but I was very much attached and created a victim mindset through that series. I then had a friend commit suicide when I was 21 and he was 19 or 18. And that really fractured my friend group and really shut a lot of us down emotionally. I turned to alcohol as a pretty strong way of finding freedom and relief, and a destructive way to experience a form of inner peace that I couldn't get anywhere else. And then the catalyst that they were all kind of things that I would say destroyed a part of me or wounded a part of me. And then I sat a ceremony with one of my teachers when I was 24 or 5 or 6, I can't remember, 26 maybe. And that changed everything. And this was with a lineage from Peru, working with a specific medicine that was just truly and utterly profound. And it changed my life, and didn't just change my life in that moment, because I think that's it was life-changing, but it also changed the trajectory. So I still went back to work then and went to work, and I worked and did the same shit the next day. I was just internally, I had shifted, and then my trajectory started, my external environment started to then reflect that, because the trajectory I was on had definitely changed.
Yeah,
My priorities as well, man. Like I now found this feeling, this reference point for depth and love and beauty that I wanted to explore.
hmm I was just gonna say I can totally relate to that. That it's not always that it can be life changing, but also it just gives you a different North Star. Like it makes you realize that maybe the North Star you were following before your
Mm,
initiation, before your ceremony, was a faulty one, and it wasn't leading you down a good path. And then you have this experience that kind of it shows you like, hey, there's actually a different trajectory that I need to be walking on. There's a different path. There's a mountain that I need to climb. And it's not that you've reached the mountaintop, but it shines a light on the journey that you want to go on. For me, it was the same
mm,
with kind of getting into meditation and Buddhist philosophy. It put me on a path that I'm still on
mm.
today. I'm curious, if you don't mind sharing, what was the medicine? What
Yeah,
was the lineage?
San Pedro. So it's
Mm,
the cactus. So it's a beautiful medicine. I don't speak too heavily about that like the ceremonial setting because it is so sacred to me, and I know
yeah,
it's a bit trendy right now, the whole
yeah,
plant medicine thing. And I'm sure you've seen this happen in many different kind of modalities, whether it's breath work or the cacao ceremony or meditation. Everything has its sort of season,
yeah,
but like that lineage and that work that I do, it's sacred to me, and it's something that I hold really close to my heart. And I'm happy to share any stories, of course, but I don't share them to let you know that I've done it. I share them
yeah.
because they hold value to me. And I think this is something that a lot of men, I've started walking with a lineage from Mexico that's around Vision Quest. And there's a whole beautiful, we have a beautiful practice that we filter from the Vision Quest lineage into all of the ceremony that we do. Is can you wait to tell people about what you've just done?
Mm,
And
yeah.
with Vision Quest, it's normally you wait a year and a day or
Uh-huh.
101 days. And it's like this whole longer. So you got to let it brew. You got to let it actually integrate before you run off and tell someone about the beautiful psychedelic vision that you had or the healing that
Yeah.
just went down. Or you go and tell people about the amazing experience that you had on Vision Quest. It's no, let that be for you and let it
Mm,
actually land appropriately in your bones and let the wisdom move through you rather than it be this story that gets you likes or gets you
yeah.
oohs and ahs from your friend group.
I really appreciate you having that perspective because it's even I was a little tentative to ask the question because I've seen so many memes of white dudes on podcasts talking about their ayahuasca experience. And it's just, it is a meme at this point. It's, yeah, I did this psychedelic experience. And it really, in some ways, or maybe more than some, there's so much spiritual materialism going on of, let me wear these psychedelics on my shoulder and fluff up my ego and feel that I'm better than or I'm more accomplished or whatever, as opposed to, as you're saying, this so beautiful, let it be for you. If you
Yeah.
can do it and not even talk about it for a year and just let it breathe, let it resonate, and do it for these wholesome reasons, I think that's so beautiful.
Oh, brother, yeah, 100%. And one of the beautiful things with the lineages that I work in is, are you learning the songs? Are you
Mm.
making the offerings outside of the plant medicine journeys? Are you doing all of the other practices that are a part of that tradition? Because if you're not, then I hate to break it to you, but you're being a fuckwit.
Yeah,
Bro,
yeah,
and I love you, but if you're going to embrace a lineage, you must embrace all of it, and not no, sorry, you not must embrace all of it. You must have a reverence for some of the things that may not be as great for stories.
yeah.
You know,
May not be as sexy or, hey, let me put this on
mm.
my Instagram that I've done this thing.
Yeah, bro,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's similar
mm.
my background is really more in the Vipassana world, and it's similar that one of the really important things from Buddhist practice is the ethical framework, like practicing the 5 precepts on living an ethical life and practicing generosity. And
Mm.
there are a lot of people who want the meditative insights and realizations, but then they don't want to actually look at, are they living in an ethical way? Are they committing sexual misconduct or lying or stealing or all these things? So it really is have reverence, as you say, for the whole
Mm.
process. And then, of course, you can choose, is there something that in my heart feels outdated here? And
Mm-hmm.
maybe something that I feel okay letting go of. But yeah, I think it's beautiful what you're
Mm.
doing with men. I'm curious to know a little bit more about that journey that it set you down on and where you
Mm.
went from there. So you had this transformative experience. And then what
Yeah.
happened after that?
I literally, the week after I booked, I paid for the deposits for my wife. Well, she was wasn't my wife at the time, but my partner, Meg. We paid the deposit to go to Peru. Like 6 months later, we paid it 6 months early, and we're like, we're going to Peru. We're going to actually go over and work with this lineage and be in ceremony. And as we say, meet the masters, which are the mountains over in Peru. And we're like, we're going. It was like, it's a no brainer. I had other places that I wanted to go to Europe. I wanted to go to Bali. I wanted to go to all these other places for holidays, but I was like, Peru was just this shining. I was like, I'm going.
Mm-hmm.
I now know that this is the path that I'm here to follow, and not for any other reason than it felt good for me. This is where my heart wants to sing, so I'm going to go there. And yeah, man, the catalyst though, the big catalyst that happened, and probably how men's work came online, was like after that first trip to Peru, I spent it with 15 other women. So it was me, 15 other women, and another old dude who was 60, and he's passed now, bless up. He was actually a Kennedy. He was I think he's JFK's nephew. He's Christopher Kennedy Lawford. So he was this cool American dude, but he was 60, right? So he's in a different season. I'm a 26-year-old young buck. He's a really rich, very famous old dude that's got all of his needs met, that needs nothing, whereas I'm at the start of my journey. So even though I deeply connected with him, I didn't feel that brotherhood. And I was with all these other women, and by the end of the trip, as much as I love women and I revere and honor the feminine, I was fucking sick of being on a bus with women talking about things that they were talking about, listening to their music. And I was like, I need brothers. I need men to go on a journey with me with this sort of stuff. I want to be around bros and have the brotherhood. I want guys to do this with. I want men. Where are the other men? So yeah, man, that was the catalyst. The whole trip in Peru, like deep insights, beautiful healings, all of the things that you could imagine. Incredible connection with the culture, the indigenous, the Quero, and all the beautiful teachers there that I got to connect with, 100%. And the mountains and the masters, beautiful. And the whole trip, the essence was like, where are the men? And then I was like, start, Jacob. That was the essence. When I wrote the event information on the plane home. I also started a business on the plane home as well. I was like, okay, I need to start a business, and I started building an app for the plumbing industry. But I was like, when I get home, I'm gonna join a men's group, or I'm gonna run my first men's group. So I just started creating an event.
Wow! And is that when the Gathering of Men started, or was that a little bit later?
The Gathering Men only started 3 years ago. Okay. We're only coming up to our third one, but this was the first sort of movement that I started was called Man's Movement. I was like, that sounds cool. Men moving in the same direction. I was like, they just came up with a name, got on Canva, made a graphic, and then started posting on social media about the experiences that I had and what I was calling in. And at the time I'd read The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I'd read the Celestine Prophecy, which are like the start. I feel like they're the beginner books for a lot of guys on their journey. That, and then I didn't read The Way of the Superior Man by Data for a long time. But those ones, and I was very much in my light and fluffy spiritual, very lover, very light masculine, all about presence, all about peacefulness, all about surrendering to the forces of the universe. We had some really beautiful men's groups at the beginning, but eventually, like, my dark masculine was like, dude, you've got no money, you're living week to week, you've got you don't really have a vision. It's there, but you haven't really claimed it. Like, you haven't fully owned it. And that was when things started to get super wobbly for me, bro. When the darkness wanted to come online, I'm like, oh, fuck.
How did you notice? What were the signs?
I couldn't hold on to money. I would say that I became quite needy in my relationship. And if I couldn't get my needs met in my relationship, that's where, I'm sure we'll talk about porn, but like porn or sugar or a coping mechanism would come in to nourish me in a distorted way. And what I found was that my skin really played up, bro. I started to get super bad eczema. I got super stressed, and I felt like I was starting to get chronic fatigue.
Wow. I don't want to say I love hearing about your struggle, but I love this insight that you were already deep into a journey, right? It's like you were deep into a journey of healing and spirituality, and still you almost needed to have a second rebirth. And I just like this because I think it can give some hope to men that have maybe already started their journey, but they still feel a bit lost. That, hey, there's still more layers that you can go down. And to not to not avoid the signs that you're seeing. If you're seeing signs of depression or anxiety or fatigue, or you can't hold on to money, you can't make decisions, all these things are signs that, hey, there might be something you need to unearth. And it sounded like for you, it was a second rebirth where you had to die again.
The way that I look at it, and I've got a whole framework that I use for men now. A lot of guys say the longest journey you'll take is the 6 inches from your head to your heart.
Mm.
And I'm like, yeah, cool. That's an awesome journey. But there's another part of the journey. You got to go from the heart down to the cock.
Uh-huh.
And that was the fucking most terrifying journey for me. That was like coming down into the heart is like beautiful. But then coming down through the guts, through the grief, down into the fucking darkness, into the raw masculine power that I have to plant the seed of life in my woman's womb, like that kind of power, that I have the power to plant seeds and to take and destroy, like all of that, man. Like, I think a lot of men are unaware of the actual full journey that they're on, which is to go all the way down, not just to the heart.
Yeah, I love that. And especially as a recovering nice guy myself, I think like that first transition, it's a journey. And like going from the head to the heart is a beautiful thing that opens up so much. But it's almost, for us nice guys, it's an easy journey. It's a bit more in that soft, the feminine of, I'm in touch with my emotions and I hear you and I'm making space for you. But for a nice guy to kind of reclaim their real masculine power and stand in that ferociousness, that raw power, it's a deep challenge.
Yeah, man. I reflected on this because I never understood why all the cute girls at school would go for the dickheads. And I was like, these guys suck, man. Can't they see how nice I am? Can't they see how good I am for them? And I had no idea why these women were so drawn to these men that were just reckless. And then as soon as I read Intimate Communion by David Data, I was like, holy moly, all of the explicit words. I was like, this makes so much sense now. All of a sudden the penny dropped and I was like, oh, there's a whole texture of the masculine that I have not chosen to embody, because through my childhood and my teen years, I learned that men were not good. Therefore, I wanted to be whatever the opposite of a man was, but I couldn't be a woman because I wasn't. And we don't need to go down that fucking road. That's a horror. I don't bother in that kind of. I'm like, no, I haven't got time for that conversation. I'm a man. I was a boy becoming a man. The only option that I had was to stay a boy. So I chose to keep myself small. I didn't want to. And the only way that I found kind of my dark masculine was through self-destructive behavior. I would turn it in on myself. So I got really into like action sports, individual action sports, riding BMX, skateboarding, doing dangerous things that would feed the dark part of me, the wild part of me. But I never ever had to. It was never ever a. How do I say this? There was very little chance of anyone getting caught in the crossfire when I was in my dark masculine.
It was a totally isolated thing. And I imagine that also kind of alcohol and porn were also ways for you to feed the dark masculine without it having to be with anyone else. It was a solo, okay, let me just get drunk and get wasted, or indulge in porn. And it was a way to give a little bit of food to the dark masculine without tapping into it and owning it.
Man, I have a model that I use, and like whenever life wants me to be courageous, I can either be courageous or I can cope. And that was my coping. My coping was alcohol, porn, sugar, or food was a real big one for me. Crunchy, salty, sweet foods. Like I just destroy my body with horrible foods. But alcohol wasn't a big one for me initially. Like the self-destructive behavior came through wanting to do crazy shit, stunts and wild things through sports. And then in the shadows, when I wanted to when I wanted sex, when I wanted the richness of a woman's body, yeah, porn was it. And I didn't have access to porn quite a lot through my teen years, but whatever I could find, I would consume. And then it wasn't until we got good internet, and I moved away and then I got better internet and I had a laptop, and it was just game on from there for me. I was like, cool, I now don't have to go and try and score. I don't have to go out and ask a girl out. I don't have to risk anything because I've got everything that I need on Pornhub, man. And to me, it made so much sense as a nice guy. I'm like, cool, this is not hurting anyone. This is actually a good thing. It's crazy how my mind would weave me as the hero. It would weave the story to the point of, Jacob, you're actually doing the right thing. This is not hurting anyone. I was so wrong. And also, I got a lot of compassion for that guy because he was terrified of his own fierceness. That version of me, I was terrified of my own fierce, aggressive behavior. And that all stems back to an experience that I had when I was 10. And I lost the plot when I was a 10-year-old boy on the sporting field and yelled at all of my friends. And I got shamed for it by my family and by my school. And I got punished for it. And no one really told me what was going on in my body, in my mind. And no one really helped me understand what I was going through. I was just pushed into the seat of, you're a bad person. You've dishonored the school. You've dishonored the town. I came from a small town. I dishonored my family. So I learned that the dark masculine was this dangerous, bad, horrible thing. Right?
Wow. That's I can feel that viscerally, that reaction, that visceral experience of shame early on in childhood. And when you're not taught how to process it or how to deal with it, that can be such a transformative event where you say, I never want to open up that door again. So I need to not take any risks. I need to not ruffle any feathers because that door is too scary to open ever again.
100%, man. 100%. That's exact. I call it the cloak of shame because it was this thing that kind of just got, after that experience at 10, I was never the same again. I can identify because I was a killer on the sporting field. I either win or I die. And I love that. I love that fierce competitive nature that I have. And I'm glad that it's back. But I can track that when that happened, I stopped. Cricket was my sport and soccer. From that point onward, I struggled to take a wicket or score any runs in cricket, and I couldn't score a goal. I lost any edge, any aggression, I became completely and utterly limp and flaccid, and I couldn't take the shot. I couldn't let the arrow fly. I didn't have that in me anymore. Or I did. I just covered. It was behind this cloak of shame.
Yeah.
And that cloak didn't come off until that cloak didn't come off for 17 years. I did things underneath the cloak that I'm not proud of, the shame, the porn, the alcohol. I found ways to do it that I didn't have to take responsibility because it wasn't hurting anyone else but myself. But it wasn't until I was 27 at a men's retreat that I got to experience what it was like to really release all of the weight and the anger and the rage and the hurt that had caked up and had become stuck around that unique warrior that sat within me.
I want to talk a little bit about men's retreats and what is it that is so powerful about men's retreats? Like, why do you find that these are important?
I believe that they are the thing that grounds all the other work men do. So you've spoken about Vipassana and meditation. I've spoken about ceremony with plants. I love nature as a reflection. I love meditation or breathwork as a beautiful thing to take us deeper within ourselves. But there is no denying that when another man stands in front of you, that is another man, and you are a man. You're not going to get a more clearer reflection of man than when you're with another man. You can't get this with a woman. You can't get this with a plant, a cactus. You can't get this by meditating on a single point or meditating on your death or breathing deep or doing an ice bath. Like when you stand in front of another man and you guys like face off, you start to see parts of yourself that you never would have seen. And I truly believe that's why men need to spend time with men, because we start to see, and it's very easy to judge something about another man and then have them judge you. It becomes really like the tension starts to arise. And what I have learned more recently over the last few years is all ancient cultures had some form of men's work woven into their culture that wasn't called men's work. It was just part of the life that a man would lead.
It brings to mind the word initiation, which I know you've talked a lot about. I'm curious, what does that word mean to you?
It is appropriate passage for a man to step into a greater level of responsibility. Initiation is the appropriate passage a man must go through to become capable of more responsibility.
And also this transition from boyhood to manhood, are these kind of linked up of that transition?
That transition isn't a transition of I'm a boy, I'm now a man, therefore I have greater responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, that is this is where we must, as men, speak really clearly. I believe I speak really clearly about initiation being a cyclical experience, a cycle. And I'd say that men are nature, and nature goes through cycles. So it's not just one initiation that happens when you're 17, and all of a sudden the next day you're now able to drive a car, buy alcohol, pay taxes, all of these things, own a home, get married. No, that's just one of the many initiations that you're going to go through. So an initiation is a cycle, is the thing that men will cycle through as they go through the seasons of manhood, the stages of manhood, rather. Because like becoming a father, starting a business, buying a home, buying a car, anything that requires a greater level of responsibility from you is going to ask you to expand your capacity. And if you don't do something that signifies that you are greater than what you thought you were, then there is going to be a part of you that is attached to controlling that thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, when I got married, I went and did a 10-day hunt, like a 10-day hunting trip with a guide. Like it was crazy. I went so far away from home. I could have done this on a weekend, but I paid all of this money and it was so worth it, man. So worth it. And I flew up to the top of Australia and I spent 10 days on like country that not many people get to spend time on. And I got to hunt and be hungry and connect with the land and completely strip everything back until I realized what it meant, what I was stepping into. And that initiation was just preparation for the real thing, right? When I was standing at the altar waiting for my now wife to walk in, like I was cracked the fuck open like never before, man. I was so open and ready. I wasn't worried. I knew it was going to be big and it was an emotional day for me, but I was ready. And that's what the initiation does. It creates a readiness in a man for the responsibility that awaits him.
They almost prepare us for the challenges and the responsibilities that we face in life.
The initiation is just preparation for the real initiation. Yeah.
And it's cyclical. Each one is preparing us for the next one.
Of course, man. We call it there's a 3-step process to the initiation cycle, which then can be expanded out to the 17 stages of the hero's journey, which we could spend hours or days going into. But essentially, you're going to feel the call. Like I felt the call to marry my woman. So I was like, cool, awesome. And then I had to go through a challenge, which was I chose to initiate, but consciously chose to go into the challenge, which was I'm going to go to this 10-day hunt. Cool. And then I came back and then I celebrated. And the celebration was that I came home to my woman and I had these stories. And then the call would come again. And then the challenge and then the celebration. And then there's 3 things that will actually separate the call, the challenge, and the celebration. So the call and the challenge, to go from call to challenge, there has to be a threshold. There has to be a point where you can't return.
Tell me more about that.
So for me, the way that I made a decision, and this is, if we look at this through a marriage perspective, I'm pretty big on the family unit and committing to one woman for your entire life. I know that it might sound crazy or a little bit biblical, but I fuck with it, man. It's my path. Do whatever you want, but that's my path. So for me, the initiation was to go and buy a ring. The threshold was to buy the ring and then actually get down on one knee and ask her to marry me. The challenge was all of the stuff that came up between then and the marriage. And the marriage was almost like the completion of the challenge. And then the celebration was the reception. And then we got to integrate all of that before the next call came. And the next call was, hey, we want to have a baby. And then we spent some time preparing. And then the threshold was having sex and the baby growing in my wife's belly. And now we're almost at the completion of the challenge where my wife's due to give birth in the next 3 weeks. and then we're going to celebrate the birth of our new child, and then we're going to integrate until the next call comes. And
That's
the way
so
that
beautiful.
and the way that I prepare for these things, like I said, is I went and did the hunt, which was like I went and prepared myself. I went and stepped through a threshold that was cool, pay the money, decent chunk of cash, and then go and get dropped off in the middle of nowhere. And now you're here for 10 days, bro. You can't leave. You got to either you find food to eat or you go hungry, and hopefully you're still alive at the end of the 10 days. Could have died.
Yeah. It reminds me of something that I talk about a lot on this podcast and with the guys in my community, of this concept of burning the boats. And it's like when you commit to something and you burn the boats behind you so that there's no chance of escape. And it's that threshold that you commit to where you say, okay, I imagine some ancient initiation or ritual where they send boys out into the wilderness. There's no safety mechanism where a boy can say, I surrender. I want to come back home right now and just sleep in my bed. It's you commit to being out in the wilderness. You commit to going through this process, to walking over the fire and the coals. And it's once you make that decision, you commit yourself to the process. And it sounds like that's that threshold that you're talking about, is burning those boats and having no escape and saying, okay, I'm going to go through this process. I'm going to take on this challenge.
Correct, man. And what I highly recommend for any man that is looking to burn the boats is to ensure you have an appropriate mentor or guide in your corner. So for me, going and doing that 10-day hunt, I went with a guide who'd worked that land for years and knew that land really well. If I had have gone out there on my own, I would have definitely died. I would have died. I guarantee you. I would have got lost and I wouldn't have known how to get home.
Right. And I think that it reminds me of the importance of having the right kind of, just as you're saying, the right kind of support and the right kind of structure. As I think about a men's retreat or a men's initiation, like something like what you're doing with the gathering of men, it's, hey, here's a few days we're blocking off. All you have to do is sign up. All you have to do is sign up and show up, and we will walk you through that process. And it's like you're putting your trust and your faith in elders, in mentors, in men who have walked before you to say, I'm ready to be initiated. I'm ready to go through this process.
100%, man. And that is where I'm really passionate about the structural integrity of the space that I hold. And I'm not saying that I've gotten it perfect every time. I think you will develop and refine your product, your retreat, your workshop, your program as a leader. That's what I found anyway. And what I've witnessed in guys that I've worked with and guys that have worked with me is that there is a refinement process. We can't expect perfection, but there has to be a willingness that comes from a deep place. And that is what the gathering of men is. It comes from a deep place within not just me, but the collective heartbeat of brotherhood, of how do we come together and remember what is true, what is right, and what is appropriate as a man. And yeah, man, if you look at this year compared to the first year, there was 60 of us. And it was a wild camp. All of the facilitators were also the kitchen, and all of the kitchen were also the setup crew. And we didn't have enough toilets, and we had enough food, but there was guys that were gluten-free that didn't get gluten-free. It was a bit of a circus, but it was incredible. And now this year this is its third year, and we've developed it into a position where we're now able to run this like a well-oiled machine. And even then, I'm sure we're going to have things to refine next year. But what I've found is that the structural integrity of a space will create the safety where men can actually take the risk that they need to take to experience their brush with death. And I'm not talking about physical death, but their brush with the death of who they think they are, so they can actually have the rebirth. And one thing that it's really important to understand, like with an initiation cycle, if you go through the brush with death and have that experience and meet the new version of you through a rebirthing, integration is essential. Initiation without integration it's just a trip. It's just a ride on a roller coaster. If you can't take the gold back down the mountain and share it with the community and come back as an integrated, whole, powerful man, then you are not being initiated. You are just going to have a fun time.
I'm getting the image of doing all this work to climb up the mountain to find this precious gold. And then you touch the gold, but you leave it up there and you go back to your village without taking it with you.
Yes.
And the integration is, let me integrate this gold into my body and take it with me back to the village.
Yeah. So we call that becoming the medicine.
Ah.
Yeah. So a lot of the time with the plants, what we say is that once you've worked with the medicine, they are with you always. Once you've gone and connected with a mountain, that mountain is with you always. Like, I walk with such a solid team, bro. And I don't want to like paint the picture of spirituality as this whole like wild magical thing. It's very practical. I have an altar and I have stones that are called koyas that hold the energetic signature of the mountains that I've been to. I have sacred smoke called mapacho, sacred tobacco, that I light and I use to clear the space and call the ancestors and these beings into my life. It's a very practical, very no-nonsense spiritual practice. And then I go about my day. I don't sit here doing light language, doing funny hand signals and telling and then filming it and saying I've just connected and I'm clearing the 5D pathway so we can all experience consciousness on a new level. No, I go and wash the dishes. I go and walk the dog. I go and kiss my wife and make her breakfast. I go and live as a human because I love the human experience. Like, I'm not here to have a spiritual life. I'm here to have a human experience that's deeply connected to a spiritual practice.
So beautiful, man. And I think that's the grounded spirituality that it's one of the reasons I wanted to connect with you is I value that because there is so much nonsense out there, so much like some big egos and fluffy, just superficial stuff. It's just, and it's so sickening. And I love what you're saying. It's go do the dishes and make your partner breakfast and go out into your community and be a good person. Like that's what it's about.
Oh, I literally just went to Facebook Market. One of the things where I was like, my new porn one of my coping mechanisms is Facebook Marketplace. I get addicted to it. But normally every year I'll go through and I want to build out the resources, the infrastructure. And rather than going buying brand new, I'm really passionate about connecting with community. So I buy a lot of stuff off Facebook Marketplace, right? So I went and picked up some blankets today and I met this wonderful lady and her husband, and they were moving all of the stuff out of her mother's place. She is going down to live with them. She's 97 years old, this beautiful lady named Jem. I didn't get to meet her, but she's now part of the Tigom ancestor, and she's part of the guides. She's a woman that's in service to us through these blankets. And I shared, these are actually going to be for the men that are coming up from Melbourne. They can't bring all of their camping equipment. I'm buying these blankets so we've got enough to go around. And she's like, do you need some camp chairs? Do you need some pillows? Do you need towels? Do you need some extra blankets? I've got more. And she's cool. I'll do it all up in a package. I paid a little bit of extra cash. She gave me way more than what I paid. And she was like, I really love what you're doing. And I got to have a human experience because I was choosing to do the work in a way that aligned with my values rather than jumping online and going Amazon.com, 5 blankets, buy. And I'm not saying that I still buy a few things off Amazon because sometimes I just need it efficient and quick. But this aligned in the way that I run this retreat is so deeply it's a values-based retreat. And if I'm not living my values in the preparation and the curation of the structure, then there's no structural integrity. Then it's just going to become another thing that people do because it's there.
Another commodity, another... Yeah.
But man, now I get to tell when I hand these guys out, bless up, prayers up for Jem, this beautiful 97-year-old woman who these blankets, man, they're old woolen blankets. She must have had them since she was young. Who knows how old they are? And these guys are going to get to wrap themselves up in this and feel warm because of the warmth of another human's heart, that I got all of these blankets for a ridiculous price, $30 for 4 blankets, for 5 chairs. You couldn't buy that from a shop. And you don't get the stories, man. You don't get the stories. You don't get the culture when you don't go and live in an aligned way with what the messages that you are receiving from your spiritual practice.
And it's about human connection, not just a transaction.
Yeah, man. One of my favorite bros, Lino, he's coming and he's a solid dude. He's one of the facilitators at the Gathering of Men. He said, if we weren't meant to connect, what is the point of all these other people? If we're not actually meant to have human connection, why is there so many of us all getting about? What's the point then? And I always laugh at that. It's such an of course moment. I was like, of course. we're here to connect. Because look at all of us. There's so many of us.
What do you wish more men knew about men's work?
I wish they knew actually how fun it was. I wish they knew that it was fun, not necessarily. And I'm not saying that it can't be very painful and powerful, but it's so much fun. I wish they knew the joy that was available to them. We camp out on the land, man. We all roll out our camp equipment. We all eat together and sit on the earth. I wish they knew just how much fun it was. And it wasn't actually this scary, dangerous thing that's going to change them forever. It will change you forever in a good way, but I wish people knew how fun it was. And if I would guarantee you, if people had the chance to go to a big music festival for 4 days where there's drugs and alcohol and just debaucherous experiences, I'm saying if you got to go do that, man, I did that and I had an absolute fucking ball. And it's incomparable what I've experienced on men's retreats. Incomparable. Because, man, like on Sunday last year, on the third day, I had a huge, big workshop planned. And I'm a bit of a control freak. And I'm like, where is it? Why isn't everyone at the main? I told everyone to be here by 9 a.m. And I look around and I had this like wave of just massive, just like the magic just hit, all of a sudden experienced the joy that was being experienced by the whole collective of the brothers. And I looked around and there's a group of guys playing keep up with the soccer ball and kicking the soccer ball around and laughing. There's another group of men all just jamming, singing at the top of their lungs, just smiling, laughing, playing the drums and the guitars and guys dancing around them. I look over and there's another group of men like rolling jiu-jitsu underneath the tree, and they've all put their blankets out and they've made this huge big jiu-jitsu arena, and they're all learning different. We had a couple of brown belts and black belts there that were teaching all these other guys about jiu-jitsu. And then there's people sitting gathered around the kitchen and they're all brewing coffee. And everyone, all these coffee guys. And then I looked down in the creek and guys are like laying in the creek playing flute. And I was like, this creation is born of the collective, not of me controlling it. And I remember thinking, wow, man, like if I could capture what is happening right now, the essence of it, of all of these men just like doing what they want to do in the moment and enjoying themselves for the sake of enjoyment. Fuck, man, if I could bottle this and sell it, I would.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, you need to come out and do it. It's part of the process. And that happened on day 3. And it always happens, man. It always happens. Every retreat. I've ran quite a lot of retreats before the Gathering of Men as well. There's a point where the magic takes hold. And it's no longer about me leading or you following. It's about us in coherence. It's about a congruent, synchronistic giving and receiving that occurs when we return to our natural state. And it's crazy, man. If guys knew how fun men's work was, they wouldn't go to the pub, or they'd go and do men's work, and then they'd go and have a beer, and they'd be able to just have one. Or if they wanted to do some kind of weird, sexy, kinky thing with their wife, they could go home and talk about their dark desires. Or if they wanted to start a business, they'd have the humility to go and do it and ask for help.
So many benefits. I just want to rewind because I loved this image of you. You know, I've run retreats in my past, more in the meditation traditions, and I'm also that control freak that's, okay, here's our schedule at 9 a.m. You guys got to be here. And I can just imagine you 9 a.m. on the final day saying, okay, why aren't these guys here at my workshop? I'm trying to teach you guys how to connect authentically. And then you look around and realize they've already gotten the message. They've already mastered it and they're connecting authentically. And there's no need for them to come to your 9 a.m. workshop because they're already doing it.
Dude, that was exactly it. It was so funny. I was like sitting there and my dad came and was in the kitchen crew and he came over and he's like, pretty good, eh? And I was like, this was it. What's happening was what I wanted to facilitate, but it's already happening. It's already done. I was like, and I was just laughing with joy. And I was like, oh, I can enjoy myself. I can relax and be a part of the retreat as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
As you say that, the words that are really coming to me that's so important for men to hear, I think, is how to relax and enjoy yourself. Like for men, there's so much of this anxiety, this tension of, I need to put on a mask. I need to perform. I need to be a certain way. I need to be likable. I need to be whatever, but just learning how to relax and be yourself and enjoy your life.
Yeah, that was, yeah, man, that was a huge one for me. And not to go into it, but I started to explore and learn a little bit more about Tantra and the tantric way. And I learned around, I could actually experience more if I relax rather than grip, hold, or tense was huge. Not just for my sex and my relationship to my cock, my relationship to women and the feminine, but in my whole relationship to life. I no longer had to do anything. I was able to do it if I wanted to, and I got to do it from a place of openness rather than from a place of gripping.
Mm.
And I forget that sometimes. I'm human. I trip up,
Yeah.
but that's been a really nice thing. Is actually like learning the energetics of Tantra and like bringing that into my practice as well.
Mm. Wow. It almost comes full circle. We talked about the head to the heart, that kind of surrendering, and then accessing the dark masculine, like getting the fire, and then now surrendering back a little bit into it and the letting go and the relaxing.
Yeah, man. And I don't know about you, but all of it just feels like nervous system training. That's really what a lot of men's work is. It's just training your nervous system to not only be able to be responsible and hold more, but to actually be able to relax and receive more. Because the more that you give, by the universal principle that I live by, which is irony, which is sacred reciprocity, the more you give, therefore, the more you must receive.
Mm-hmm.
There is nothing goes one way. Nothing goes one way. And you can be someone that takes too much, or you can be someone that gives too much. And if you're blocking the other, that's where your work is.
Yeah.
There's your work.
Beautiful, man. I think that just sets up really nicely a segue into you coming back on the show to talk more about intimacy, relationships, Tantra, all the stuff you're learning there. I'd love to have you back on for a second episode.
I really feel like that will be a really fun one to come on and talk about how this work that I am doing and that you and I have spoken about in our own way is how that then filters into creating a relationship with a woman and what that means, because I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for the woman that stands beside me. She's been such a catalyst and such an initiatrix for me through her ability to invite me into my potential, love me where I'm at, and invite me into my potential. So I'd really love to come on and, and dialogue with you around that, because I think there'll be loads of value for both of us and also all the guys that are listening.
Definitely. Final question for you. Where can people get in touch with you? Where can they learn more about the Gathering of Men? I know the retreat is coming up soon. So just give a little plug for what's going on there.
Awesome, man. Yeah, so the Gathering of Men is in Australia. So if you're in Australia or if you want to fly in from it, wherever, it's happening on the 4th till the 7th of October. Tickets are just $777 Aussie. We have payment plans available. You're going to get exposure to 15 world-class men's work facilitators. And over the course of 4 days, you're going to experience 12 different workshops, 12 different, very diverse experiences that are going to give you something for all parts of you, whether it's for purpose, whether it's for something that needs to be healed, whether it's for something in your relationship or something to do with the mindset or the heart set. So you're going to get a really beautiful experience of the variety that men's work is. If you want to find out more, hit me up on Instagram at the Jacob O'Neill. Everything's in my bio. Click the link, take a look, shoot me a voice note. I love going back and forth. Intimacy is one of my core values, so I love jamming with people. So feel free to shoot me a message. I love to chat. And man, just super grateful to connect with you, another brother. And we're not alone, bro. We're doing it together. Together we rise. And that's the more us as leaders come together, the more we normalize collaboration and camaraderie over competition and comparison. So I'm really grateful for the opportunity to connect with you, bro. And let's just keep doing it. Let's wash those dishes and keep the dream alive.
Right on, man. Right on. It's been great chatting with you. And to all the listeners out there, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Unhooked. I will link all the links to Jacob's stuff in the show notes so you'll get access there. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.